Hey there. We're talking, of course, about early civilization, and we're focusing on the river valley civilizations, the four of them, and we are using this document that you were provided to find information and use these topic talks to acquire the information so that we can compare and contrast these different river valley civilizations. Today we're going to be dealing with the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, which location-wise would be in what we call today the Middle East. So if you look in the middle of a world map, it's kind of right there in the middle, probably just up from the equator, kind of in that place where Europe and Africa and Asia all come together. It is located in what we would probably say West Asia or present-day Iraq, as it borders kind of northwest of the Persian Gulf. The two rivers here, the Tigris and Euphrates, as they run kind of parallel to one another and then blend in there at a confluence, they're very unpredictable even today, very volatile. Their flooding can occur without much warning, so that's going to shape a lot of the society and the belief systems of the people who live there. Another example, or an example of how geography kind of shapes us. Geographic barriers, there's evidence of deserts and mountains, and then of course even water that will serve as protectors, but also providers for the people of this early civilization. Names of identification, we often call this Mesopotamia, or the Fertile Crescent, as the name Fertile Crescent there shows that these rivers shape in somewhat of a crescent, kind of rounded, and of course the soil being fertile from the nutrients that are deposited from the floods, making agriculture definitely available. As they built cities here, as villages turned into cities, we're going to see, and evidence suggests that a lot of these cities were very jumbled in the way they were constructed. There wasn't a lot of urban planning, maybe, to make them more efficient. But cities like and Uruk, probably mispronouncing those, but you get the point. They're spelled right up there on the board. Those would be trade centers, and they would play that role in this civilization. They would be city-states, if you will. So the city itself, and then the surrounding areas supplying the necessary resources to that city's survival. Religiously, they would be polytheistic, believing in many gods, and obviously, like a lot of early peoples, the natural events that are affecting them are going to be the sources and the responsibility of the gods. So keeping the gods happy when it comes to your floods and when it comes to your crops is going to be very important to them. As a result, government early on is going to be led by priests, or priest kings, if you will, who have the ability to communicate with the gods and who are seen as having the best explanations for what's happening to the populations there. Since these priest kings would not lead the societies into war, and as war becomes more prevalent in competition amongst the city-states, you're going to see a transition that keeping the people happy, or keeping the rulers happy, if you will, is going to be more important, and this idea of a priest king is going to kind of fade away into keeping a person happy, or the king happy. And that king's power is going to be passed down from generation to generation. And we're going to see some evidence of dynasties developing here. As these were areas of great trade, and there's some evidence that the Mesopotamian civilization traded with, to their east, the Indus Valley civilization. They're going to be trading things like grain and cloth that was produced, and tools that they would make for items like stone and wood and metals. Not a lot of resources available here when it comes to materials, so getting those resources in and then making them into things is going to be important. The society is going to be structured with the royalty and the landowners and priests, of course, at the top. Under them would be the merchants, the business owners there, the laborers under them, and then slaves, of course, at the bottom. And note that women appeared to have some mobility within the social structure, and they could achieve power. Written language would be cuneiform, and that written language would be learned primarily by the elites of the society, giving them some distinction and some education that maybe lower levels of society would not have. Achievements, we can note, let's see, that arithmetic, they would have a system of counting based on 60, which we use still today when we're counting our minutes. 60 minutes or 60 seconds equals a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. Also from geometry, they determine the 360 degrees in the circle there. They would make achievements in agriculture with irrigation, architecture, with things like arches and columns. And this society would obviously be a place where others would want to control. So nomadic peoples would begin threatening them, and it says in 2350 BC they would be conquered by the Akkadians, and they would kind of assimilate into the Sumerian culture, as this area was also known, and begin spreading it as well. That takes us finally to Hammurabi, who by the 1700s BC would come into power and have established his empire or his control through the city of Babylon. And we remember Hammurabi as being the first known code writer, and thus arranging the laws of his society into a written code, which is going to provide consistency for their enforcement. And obviously others would copy, and we still copy that today as we write our laws into codes. Thanks.